In this macro photography tutorial, we're taking a look at shooting some feathers. Feathers are really interesting up close, and we're going to be adding a little bit of coloured light and some water droplets to make them a little bit more visually interesting. I'm going to go and get started, so I'll see you in just a sec. Hi guys, I'm Ben from Adaptalux and welcome to another macro photography tutorial. Today I'm taking a look at what we can do with some feathers. These were actually sent to us by one of you guys. Thank you, Darren, for sending us a couple of feathers to play around with, and thank you for packing them so well. These feathers are really pristine. I think they're going to make for a really nice macro photography subject when we get up close. I'm also going to be using a little bit of water, I think, to put some water droplets down on these guys. And of course, I'm going to be using the Adaptalux Studio with our white and coloured lighting arms, just so that we can get some really interesting lighting effects as we get up close with our macro lens. I'm going to go and put my macro lens onto my camera now and see what we can do. Today, I think I'm going to be shooting mostly freehand. Moving around my subject, I think, is going to be quite important, and going freehand, getting away from the tripod, is going to give us that opportunity to get a lot of range of movement around our feather and really go exploring in the details. So today I'm shooting with the Sony a7 III, and I've got a Dakina 100mm lens on the front. This is a macro lens, so we are going to get that opportunity to get really close and see a lot of the details on our feather. But it also functions more like a standard 100mm portrait lens, so we can move backwards, focus a little bit further out, and get more of our feather in the frame. I'm going to be moving around quite a lot and changing my composition in and out of my feather, depending on the type of lighting that I'm using and how much detail I want in any particular shot. For my feather itself, I've placed that into a soldering clamp. This is just a series of arms, hinges and clips, which are really easy to position, and it gives you a lot of opportunity to change how you want your feather to be sat on your shooting surface. I'm going to be shooting mostly with a black background today, just shooting out into the open, no backdrops or anything like that. If you need a tutorial on how to get black background shots, I'll link one just up here. It's really easy and it can all be done with your settings rather than using a backdrop. If you do go and watch that video, you'll find that one of the most important aspects to getting those iconic black background shots without using a dedicated backdrop is a lot of light. You're going to need a lot of light on your subject so that you can expose for that and have your background underexposed. My light today is of course going to be coming from the Adaptalux Studio, so I have my control pod here and I have a lot of lighting arms at the ready. I'm just going to be plugging them in, experimenting around with different diffusers, color filters, and of course colored lighting arms. This is a blue lighting arm with a white diffuser on the end, so I can both have this direct vivid blue light but also diffuse it a little bit and see what difference that makes to the details on my feather. I'm going to be combining different colors of lighting arms and different undiffused, diffused lights from different directions to try and bring out some of that really interesting detail on our feathers. I'm going to jump right in and see what I can get initially on my first feather. Taking a look at my first couple of shots from my first feather, I think the shoot is going to be just as interesting as I thought it might be. The feathers are very subtly curved. The very pleasing shapes create interesting shadows as you shine light across the surface of the feather. I'm shining light from two different directions right now. I've got two white lighting arms, one with a white diffuser on it and one with a pink color filter. The pink of the color filter is actually filling the shadows created by the slightly brighter white light. And that's something that's really fantastic with a lighting setup like this, is that you can adjust the light levels of each individual lighting arm to suit exactly what you're going for. With a subject like this, when you need very fine control over exactly where your light is falling and in what intensity, that can be very, very handy. I'm going to keep playing around, see if I can't highlight a few more edges and interesting shapes created by these feathers. I'm really liking the variety that we can get out of these two very simple, very plain and very common feathers. We actually shot some peacock feathers not too long ago, and that was very interesting because of the amount of colours that the feather itself provided. Adding colours in this way by using different colour filters and coloured lighting arms gives you a very different effect, but it's just as effective for making your images stand out. There's one thing that we tried in that previous tutorial that took things up to the next level, and that was adding a little bit of water. In the peacock feather tutorial, I was just placing very deliberate drops of water onto my feather so that I could get a nice ball of water on the top of my feather. Today I'm going to take a slightly different approach by using a tiny little misting bottle. Now this is slightly different to a spray bottle in that the mist, the water particles that are created are very, very, very small, so they're going to mist onto the surface of my feather rather than create big droplets and disturb too much of it. It gives you a very fine control over exactly how big you want your water droplets to be on your feather. You can keep going until they're nice and big, or you can just put a few little sprays on there and see how you go. Obviously, it's a lot easier to add more water than it is to take it away, so be sparing with your mist bottle. I'm going to start misting my feathers a little bit now and see if that doesn't add just a little bit more visual interest to my shots. Choosing where to focus on your feather can be a little bit tricky anyway, but when you start adding water drops, it gets even trickier. You're going to get tiny little highlights in every single drop, and those drops are going to focus the feather behind each drop in a slightly different way. You need to take a really special care on exactly where you're going to choose your focus point. You might want to choose a focus point that is inside one of the drops so that the feather inside the drop itself is in focus and the rest of the image isn't. You might want to stay focused on your feather and let those highlights of the water turn into bokeh in the background in the outer focus areas of your image. The choice really is yours. I recommend, as always, a little bit of experimentation. Move around your subject, see what looks best for your particular feather and for your particular lighting setup. I have, as always, been moving my lighting around quite a lot, so I've got a big variety of different types of shots, different areas of my feathers in focus, and different types of water drops in focus, out of focus, and focused on the feather on the inside of the water drop. If you spot any feathers as you're out walking, it's always worth grabbing them. They don't last forever, they'll get wet, they'll get trodden on, blown around, and they will slowly get destroyed. And if you want nice pristine feathers, like the ones that Darren sent me for today's shoot, do grab them while you can. As we go into the winter months and it gets wetter and colder, they're going to become more and more rare. So if you bring them inside now, you'll have a nice, pristine and fun macro photography subject to try out at home on your coffee table over those cold winter months. And it is a lot of fun bringing in coloured lights, putting some water droplets onto the very fine details of these feathers is a really fun experiment for your macro photography ideas, trying to find those interesting lighting techniques that work really well with a complex subject and also with those water droplets on the top. The light interacting can be very, very fun to explore and experiment with. I'm pretty happy with the shots that I've got today, bringing in different colours of light from different directions, with it all interacting inside those water droplets and with the shadows on the feathers themselves. I found that really, really interesting. Let me know what you think to my shots today down in the comment section of the video. I always appreciate everything that you guys have to say, and I'll be down in the comment section to reply to your comments as well. Give the video a like if you've enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe if you want more macro photography tutorials, ideas, and inspiration in the future. But for now though guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.